Rebecca Green felt the weight of the world on her shoulders as she walked into the conference room at Henry & Associates law firm in New York City. Fresh out of law school, with idealistic notions of justice, she found herself facing one of the most intriguing and complex cases of her nascent career. Alan Ross, the client she was about to meet, was accused of murdering Thomas Caldwell, a tech mogul and founder of Caldwell Innovations. The press was in a frenzy, and the evidence against Ross seemed overwhelming. Yet, something about the case didn't sit right with Rebecca. She entered the room and found Alan Ross, a middle-aged man with tired eyes and a scruffy beard. He looked exhausted, like someone who had fought numerous battles. Beside him was his wife, Marcy, a fragile-looking woman with eyes that sparkled with determination. "Mr. Ross, Mrs. Ross," Rebecca began, "I'm Rebecca Green, your attorney. I'm here to ensure we have the best defense possible." Alan looked at her with distrust, but Marcy shook the lawyer's hand, a gesture of trust that Rebecca appreciated. "The police say you were seen leaving Caldwell's house on the night of the murder," Rebecca continued. "Is there any explanation for that?" Alan sighed deeply before speaking. "I was there, but I didn't kill him. We were arguing about a project my company was developing in partnership with Caldwell Innovations. Things got heated, and I left. But I would never hurt him." Rebecca listened intently, making mental notes. Something in Alan's story rang true, but she knew she'd need more than that to convince a jury. She decided to start investigating Caldwell's past and his company, looking for anything that might cast doubt on the prosecution's case. In the following days, Rebecca delved into mountains of documents, contracts, and old correspondence. She discovered that Thomas Caldwell was involved in several shady transactions and faced numerous lawsuits for unfair business practices. Furthermore, rumors of blackmail and corruption began to surface, painting a picture of a man who had made many enemies over the years. As Rebecca worked tirelessly, she started receiving anonymous phone calls and noticed she was being followed. One night, coming home, she found her door slightly ajar. Entering cautiously, she discovered her apartment had been ransacked. Nothing seemed stolen, but she knew it was a warning. Determined not to be intimidated, Rebecca increased her security and continued her investigation. She found that a series of incriminating emails had been deleted from Caldwell Innovations server just days before the murder. These emails suggested a bribery scheme involving high-ranking government officials and members of the judiciary, all trying to cover up Caldwell's illegal activities. With this new information, Rebecca began to build a stronger defense for Alan, showing that he might have been framed by someone wanting to cover up these secrets. However, the deeper she dug, the more she realized she was dealing with a web of corruption far beyond what she had imagined. Rebecca now stood at a crossroads. She knew continuing with the case could put her career and her life at risk, but her sense of justice drove her to press on. She had to decide how far she was willing to go to uncover the truth, even if it meant facing some of the most powerful people in the country. Tension mounted as the trial approached, and Rebecca prepared to face one of the greatest challenges of her life. But she knew that to save Alan and expose the corruption, she would need to play all her cards and perhaps risk more than ever before. In the Manhattan District Court, Alan Ross's trial was about to begin. The room was packed with reporters and onlookers, all eager to witness the unfolding of a case involving the murder of one of the most influential men in the tech world. Rebecca Green, seated beside Alan, felt the pressure but also an unwavering determination. The prosecutor, William Marshall, was known for his rigidity and ability to build solid cases. He opened with a sharp statement, highlighting the circumstantial evidence and eyewitnesses that placed Alan Ross at the crime scene. With each word, he painted a picture of Alan as a desperate man, ready to kill to protect his business interests. When it was Rebecca's turn, she stood up, feeling everyone's eyes on her. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," she began, "this case is not as simple as it seems. We are dealing with more than just a murder. We are dealing with a labyrinth of secrets and lies that involve not only my client but also the victim and perhaps even figures of authority." Rebecca knew she would need more than words to dismantle the prosecution's case. She decided to start by questioning the eyewitnesses. One of the key testimonies came from a security guard who claimed to have seen Alan Ross leaving Caldwell's house on the night of the murder. However, under Rebecca's cross-examination, he admitted that he was at a considerable distance and that the lighting was poor. The inconsistencies in his testimony began to surface, weakening the jury's confidence. As the trial progressed, Rebecca brought forth the deleted emails and other evidence she had uncovered, suggesting Caldwell was involved in corruption and blackmail. She called a former employee of Caldwell Innovations to the stand, a man named David Grant. Grant, who had been fired shortly before Caldwell's death, was reluctant but eventually revealed that Caldwell was under internal investigation for financial irregularities and that he, Grant, had been threatened to keep silent. Mr. Grant, Rebecca asked, did you know of any connection between Thomas Caldwell and high-ranking political figures? Grant hesitated, glancing around the room. Yes, he finally said. There were rumors that Caldwell had some politicians in his pocket, but I didn't have concrete proof. The revelation caused a buzz in the room, and Prosecutor Marshall immediately stood up, protesting. The judge called for a recess to deliberate on the admissibility of the evidence. During the break, Rebecca felt the weight of the case increasing even more. She knew she was dealing with powerful forces and that the stakes were high. As she walked out of the courtroom, Rebecca was approached by an elegant woman with a piercing gaze. Ms. Green, the woman said, my name is Jessica Hale. I work for the Department of Justice. We need to talk. Intrigued, Rebecca agreed. At a nearby cafe, Hale revealed that she was aware of Rebecca's investigations and that there were suspicions that influential figures were interfering in the case to cover up Caldwell's involvement in a major corruption scheme. You're wading into deep waters, Rebecca, Hale warned. They will do anything to silence you. But if you can prove what you're saying, you could expose one of the biggest scandals in recent times. Rebecca knew she was playing a dangerous game, but the possibility of exposing the truth and freeing Alan encouraged her. She decided she would need more evidence, something concrete that linked Caldwell and the involved parties directly to the crimes. As the trial progressed, Rebecca worked tirelessly, cross-referencing documents and searching for any evidence that could connect the pieces of the puzzle. She began receiving anonymous messages, some threatening, others offering help. One of these messages hinted at the existence of a key witness, someone who had worked directly with Caldwell and knew all the secrets. Rebecca needed to find this person before it was too late. Time was running out, and she felt she was on the verge of discovering something big, something that could change the course of the trial and reveal the truth behind Thomas Caldwell's murder. Alan Ross's trial was about to enter its decisive phase. Rebecca Green was exhausted but determined. The evidence she had uncovered pointed to a conspiracy much larger than the simple murder of Thomas Caldwell. Now, she needed to bring forth the key witness who could unravel the entire scheme. Rebecca was contacted by an anonymous informant who promised valuable information. She met him in an underground parking lot, away from prying eyes. The man, who identified himself only as Sam, seemed nervous, constantly looking over his shoulder. I worked at Caldwell Innovations, he began in a low voice. I saw things that haunt me to this day. Caldwell was involved in bribery and blackmail to keep his illicit operations running. I have proof, documents showing money transfers and correspondence between Caldwell and some big names in politics. Rebecca's eyes widened. You have these documents? Sam nodded. I have copies. But I need protection. They won't hesitate to silence me if they find out I talked. Rebecca assured him that she would take care of his security and asked him to hand over the evidence as soon as possible. With the documents in hand, she knew she could finally expose the web of corruption surrounding the case. In court, Rebecca began introducing the new evidence, causing an uproar. The documents revealed payments made by Caldwell to various government officials and members of the judiciary in exchange for favors and legal protections. One of the most shocking names was that of Prosecutor William Marshall himself, who had received a large sum of money to ensure Caldwell never faced legal consequences. The judge, stunned by the revelations, ordered an immediate investigation into the allegations. William Marshall tried to discredit the documents, claiming they were forged, but the authenticity of the evidence was quickly verified by forensic experts. The pressure mounted on Marshall, who found himself cornered. Meanwhile, Rebecca continued her defense, focusing on uncovering the true motive behind the murder. She called Sam as a witness, who corroborated the information in the documents and revealed that Caldwell was about to be exposed for his criminal activities, which might have led someone to silence him to protect their own interests. Mr. Ross, Rebecca said in her closing statement, was merely a pawn in a much larger game. He was chosen as a scapegoat by those who wanted to cover up their own crimes. We cannot allow justice to be distorted by those who hide behind their power. The jury began its deliberations, but Rebecca knew the case was far from over. She had angered very powerful people and was uncertain how things would end. Even as she awaited the verdict, Rebecca was approached by federal agents, including Jessica Hale, who informed her that they were expanding the investigation to include the new revelations. Rebecca felt a mix of relief and concern. The case was now beyond the Manhattan courtroom, it was becoming a matter of national interest. The threats against her life intensified, and she was placed under police protection. However, Rebecca remained undeterred. She knew she was on the right track and that if she continued digging, she could uncover the full extent of the corruption. The verdict was finally announced. Alan Ross was found not guilty of the murder charges. The courtroom erupted in murmurs and exclamations, and Rebecca sighed in relief. However, the battle was just beginning. The people she had exposed would not stand idle, and she knew she would face reprisals. As the press swarmed the courthouse and the details of the trial spread, Rebecca prepared for the next chapter. She had challenged the system and emerged victorious, but the shadows of justice still loomed over her. Now, she needed to decide how to use the information she had to ensure the true culprits faced justice. And, most importantly, she needed to ensure her own safety in a world where power and corruption always seemed a step ahead of the truth. The case that began with Alan Ross's defense had transformed into a nationwide investigation. With the new revelations about systemic corruption, Rebecca Green found herself at the center of a media storm and a federal investigation. New York City was abuzz, with daily headlines highlighting the scandal and its implications for powerful figures. After the verdict, Rebecca and her defense team began receiving constant police protection. The threats against her life did not cease, and it was clear that those whose crimes were being exposed would do anything to silence her. However, she was determined to continue her fight for justice. Jessica Hale from the Department of Justice became an important ally for Rebecca. Hale revealed that the corruption network extended not only to the judicial system but also to the highest levels of government. "We're talking about a case involving money laundering, influence peddling, and even election manipulation," Hale said in a secret meeting. "We need your help to bring these individuals down." Rebecca knew she was in a cat-and-mouse game with people who had unlimited resources. However, with the documents provided by Sam and the ongoing investigations, she hoped that justice would prevail. The media, in turn, was following every move, keeping the public informed and pressuring the authorities to act. Meanwhile, Rebecca began working on a more comprehensive dossier, compiling all the evidence and testimonies she had gathered. She planned to hand it over to the Department of Justice, hoping it would lead to a series of arrests and the restoration of integrity to the legal system. One of the most critical moments came when Jessica Hale secured a search and seizure warrant for the home and office of William Marshall, the involved prosecutor. The operation revealed a series of incriminating documents, including correspondence with various businessmen and politicians who had benefited from Caldwell's illicit services. Marshall was immediately arrested, but what worried Rebecca and Hale was who else was involved. Rebecca realized that to go deeper, she needed more than just documentary evidence. She needed a witness who was at the heart of the conspiracy. It was then that Sam contacted her again, this time with a new identity and government-provided protection. He revealed that there was a key person, a former Caldwell associate named Richard Spencer, who knew everything and was willing to talk, provided his safety and immunity were guaranteed. Rebecca and Hale worked quickly to secure a meeting with Spencer, who was hiding in a safe location. Spencer, a nervous and visibly shaken man, confirmed many of the details Rebecca already knew and added new ones, including the names of high-ranking politicians and businessmen who had collaborated with Caldwell in various schemes of corruption and bribery. "If I testify, my life will be at risk," said Spencer, his voice trembling. "But I can't keep living with this guilt. I need to do what's right." With Spencer's testimony, Rebecca and Hale now had what they needed to initiate proceedings against several implicated individuals. However, the situation was becoming increasingly dangerous. Rebecca started receiving threatening calls on her secure line, and even her security team expressed concerns about their ability to protect her. Tension peaked one night when a suspicious vehicle attempted to force entry into the garage of the building where Rebecca was being kept safe. The police reacted quickly, and the suspects were detained, but the message was clear: they were willing to do anything to stop Rebecca. Despite the dangers, Rebecca refused to back down. In a television interview, she declared, "The truth needs to be told, no matter the cost. We are fighting for a justice system that works for everyone, not just the powerful. And we will not be intimidated." With public pressure mounting and the investigation expanding, Rebecca knew the climax of her struggle was near. The full revelation of the conspiracy was within reach, but this also meant she was in the greatest danger of her life. The coming weeks would be crucial to ensuring justice was served, and Rebecca was prepared to face whatever came, knowing that once the truth was revealed, it could transform the American justice system forever. The tension surrounding Rebecca Green's case and the shocking revelations of corruption and bribery had reached a breaking point. With Richard Spencer's testimony and the incriminating evidence uncovered, the Department of Justice was preparing for a series of arrests that would include high-ranking political and business figures. However, the real battle was just beginning. As the investigations intensified, Rebecca received an urgent call from Jessica Hale. "They know about Spencer," Hale informed, her voice tense. "We have information that someone leaked his whereabouts. We need to act quickly." With Spencer's safety at risk, Rebecca and Hale organized an emergency operation to relocate him to a secure location. The plan, however, faced an unexpected setback. On the way to the new hideout, Spencer's vehicle was ambushed by armed men. A shootout ensued, and Spencer was gravely injured. Although the security team managed to fend off the attackers, Spencer was rushed to the hospital, where his condition was critical. While Rebecca awaited news of Spencer, she learned that several figures involved in the scandal, including politicians and businessmen, were fleeing the country or destroying evidence. Chaos erupted in Washington's political circles, and the media continuously reported each new development. Faced with an increasingly desperate situation, Rebecca decided to make a bold move. She called a press conference and presented all the evidence she had collected, including documents, recordings, and Spencer's testimony. The conference was broadcast live, shocking the nation with the extent of the corruption revealed. "These people tried to manipulate the justice system for their own benefit," Rebecca declared. "But justice is not a commodity. We will not allow power and influence to silence the truth." The public disclosure of the evidence created a wave of outrage and protests across the country. Pressured by public opinion and the media, the government had no choice but to act. A series of arrest warrants were issued, and previously untouchable figures began to fall. Among those arrested were high-ranking government officials, businessmen, and even members of the judiciary. Despite the victories, Rebecca's safety remained at risk. She was advised to enter a witness protection program but refused. "I can't hide," she told Hale. "If I hide, they win. We need to show that justice is stronger than fear." Meanwhile, Spencer, still in critical condition, managed to make a final recorded statement, confirming all his allegations and providing additional details about the involvement of other key figures. His courage in testifying, despite knowing the risks, was widely recognized, and he became a symbol of the fight against corruption. The trials of the accused began with significant media attention. Rebecca, now a nationally recognized figure, was called to testify about the investigations and the evidence presented. Her courage and determination were praised, and she was seen as a champion of justice. As the trials progressed, many of the accused began cooperating with authorities, hoping for lighter sentences. The revelations continued to emerge, implicating even more people in positions of power. The impact was profound, leading to significant reforms in the U.S. legal and political systems. In the end, the case became a landmark in the fight against corruption and impunity. Despite the threats and challenges, Rebecca Green succeeded not only in defending Alan Ross and exposing the real criminals but also in inspiring a nation to demand more transparency and accountability from its leaders. With the trials concluded and the situation stabilized, Rebecca finally had the chance to reflect on everything that had happened. She knew that the path to justice was long and arduous, but she also knew that with courage and determination, real change was possible. Rebecca continued her career as an attorney, now focusing on social justice and anti-corruption causes. Her name became synonymous with integrity and bravery, and she was recognized as one of the most influential advocates for justice in the country. The shadow of justice not only marked the beginning of a new era of accountability at the highest levels of power but also served as a reminder that, even in the shadows, the light of truth can prevail, illuminating the way to a more just and transparent future.